Today we're going to look at how to write an editorial. The first thing we need to know is, why do we write them? Because it represents the paper's opinion and perspective on a current event that might be in the news in the paper. It is written to persuade the reader to endorse or accept the paper's belief about issues that are appearing in news items in the paper. Its job is to influence public opinion and also to inspire critical thought about an issue, not just to accept the facts but to consider the underpinning arguments in something that's happening in the news. The tone of it is persuasive. It is therefore subjective, opinionative, and finally informative. So, what is this persuasive language? Aristotle brings us our understanding of persuasive language through his publication Rhetoric, which argues that to be persuasive, the speaker must have authority to speak, use appeals to emotion, and present his/her points, ideas, and evidence in a well-structured way. So there are three rules for appeal: logos, ethos, and pathos, or pathos. So that's strategy, behaviour, and emotions. So ethos is the moral character, the disposition, the habit or custom of the speaker. So this is where we write in an authoritative way, because when we are being persuasive, we show that we are either an expert, we've formulated expert opinions, we've understood the issue in great depth and can present a clear, effective and authoritative argument. So we may not necessarily justify who we are as writers. In this case, we represent what the paper thinks. We have a vested interest in the matter, which is shown through our research and our dedication to uncovering the vast information that exists beyond the newspaper articles, and also by using logic that shows to the reader that the speaker is knowledgeable on the topic. We also appear to our readers' understanding of ethics because we show that we have an ethical character. We show that we understand an issue and we want to inform our readers to improve their understanding for the greater good. Logos is words, speech, discourse and reason. Okay? To be logical, we formulate our ideas in a way that flows and is readily understood. So, in order to do that, we have to do our research. We have to use statistics to show that our argument, our belief, has some weight. We can also use comparisons, rhetorical questions, analogies or stories. A powerful way to appear logical and thoughtful is to refute a counter-argument. So to explore any alternative positions and then to refute them or to show that they are not valid. Pathos, or pathos, is the one we see mostly in advertising. It's an appeal to the reader's emotion. So we would expect to see metaphor, personification and simile, accumulation, so using the rule of three in order to accumulate similar ideas, alliteration, repetition, exaggeration, pronouns which are inclusive like we and our, imperatives, actually calling on your reader to take action, using rhetorical questions again, and finally the last two appeal to the vanity of the reader, suggest that if the reader agrees with the paper that they are intelligent, they have a sense of justice, they believe in fairness. We might also make claims of injustice and appeal to underlying values of the reader. So let's have a look at this video that captures this.
January 2007. Joshua Bell, one of the greatest violinists in the world, played to a packed audience at Boston's stately Symphony Hall of 1,000 people, where most seats went for more than 100 He was used to full sellout shows. He was at the peak of his abilities and fame. 3 days later, Joshua Bell played to an audience of nobody. Well, maybe 6 people paused for a moment, and one child stopped for a while looking as if he understood that something special was happening. Joshua said of the experience, "It was a strange feeling that people were actually ignoring me." Joshua Bell was playing violin in a subway station. At a music hall, I'll get upset if someone coughs or someone's cell phone goes off. But here, my expectations quickly diminished. I was oddly grateful when somebody threw in $1. What changed? Same music, on the same violin, played with the same passion, and by the same man. Why did people listen, and then not listen? Aristotle would be able to explain. What does it take to persuade people? 2,300 years ago, Aristotle wrote the single most important work on persuasion, rhetoric, the 3 means of persuasion. Logos, ethos, and pathos. Logos is that the idea makes sense from the audience's point of view. This is usually different from the speaker's point of view, so work needs to be done to make the idea relevant to the worldview, the pains, the challenges of the listeners. A good argument is like good music. Good music follows some rules of composition. Good arguments follow some rules of logic. It makes sense to the audience. Ethos is reputation. What are you known for? Credibility. Do you look and act professional? Trustworthy. Are your motives clear? Do you show the listener that you care about them as much as yourself? Authority is confidence plus a concise message, clear, strong voice. Pathos is the emotional connection. Stories are an effective human tool for creating an emotional connection. There are moments where an audience is not ready to hear the message. A speaker must create the right emotional environment for their message. What changed? Why did people travel for miles to hear him play one night and not even pause for a moment to listen the next morning? The answer is that ethos and pathos were missing. Ethos. The fact that the great concert hall hosts Joshua's concert transfers its trust to Joshua. We trust the institution. We now trust Joshua. The subway does not have our trust for musical talent. We do not expect to find great art, great music, or great ideas. So it confers no trust to Joshua. Pathos. The concert hall is designed for an emotional bond between an audience and an artist. The subway platform is not. The hustle and movement and stress is just not conducive to the emotional connection needed between performer and listener. Logos. Ethos. Pathos. The idea is nothing without the rest. This is what Joshua Bell learned on that cold January day in 2007. If you have a great idea, how do you build credibility and emotional connection?
So, logos, pathos, and ethos are important ways to persuade our readers. So, we need to find a topic. What opinions can you have about a newsworthy event in the novel? Perhaps it is a positive reaction to an event or a negative attitude towards the actions of some of the stakeholders in an event. The opinion you have needs to then be phrased in terms of the paper's angle on it. Decide what you want your readers to believe, why it is relevant to them, and how you will appeal to your readers. Then you need to plan your argument. What are the key arguments to support the central idea or thesis? For example, locals are punished because of new laws for rehabilitation of delinquent minors. So, it has increased crime rate because criminals remain in the community. it has reallocated police resources to rehabilitate and not to enforce the law. And finally, your final topic sentence could be about local children being influenced by these delinquent minors who are living amongst them. Then you need to develop your point. Under each topic you provide the research. Are there any examples in the book where things have occurred? Can you find any statistics, any historical events to support your opinions? So, for example, look up increased crime rates, the reallocation of police resources, and how local children are influenced by delinquent minors. Now that you've done your research, you get into writing. So, you write an introduction. Your writing should have a hook, catch your reader's attention. You should state your thesis. What is your opinion about a current relevant issue that's in the text? And outline how you're going to prove your point. Your body paragraphs do the same things they do in essays. They start with a topic sentence. You use cohesive strategies. You reference your thesis. You provide evidence and examples to support your points, and you conclude with a summary sentence. Your conclusion, you end on a strong persuasive note by summarising the critical aspects of your main point. You link these points to a thesis, and you end on a final persuasive point. You might call for action. For example, in the case that we've briefly outlined here, isn't it time that we criminalise bullying on the internet? Might be some point you might arrive at. Use lots of cohesive strategies that we talk about in essay writing. Object to subject, linking words, linking phrases, extended metaphors, symbols, a motif or a story in the introduction and conclusion. Make sure you have a headline and title. Attract your reader's attention. Be relevant to your thesis. Clever and direct. Drop articles, for example, boy injured, not that boy injured. Noun strings, dog, license, fee, racket. Noun phrases, unexpected visit, Puns, play on words like tennis club, racketeering. Sensationalism are great ways to have a clear title for your editorial. Consider the layout. Typically newspapers are in columns, that's where we find our editorial. There's slightly longer paragraphs than a news article. There's a large headline. There are no photographs, no byline. Remember, the important thing about an editorial is that the language is persuasive. The structure may look a lot like an essay, but the language is emotive.